Heidi-ho, nerderinos, guess who's back again and again and again and again. You see me 20,000 times lately. I wanted to go ahead and show you another PC. Haven't been doing mini PC reviews and mini PC talks lately, but we're doing that now. We're doing it again. Daddy's back in action and he's ready to roll. So this is a little mini computer that I built myself. This is a Mini ITX Gaming PC, and I'll tell you what, the specs on this bad boy are pretty killer in my opinion, especially for a lot of the PCs that I usually mess with, you know, old ancient Dell PCs with, you know, still DDR3 RAM and whatnot. This computer has got some super bad specs on it, super great specs. When I say that, when I say it's bad, I mean it's bad to the bone great. Let's go ahead and crack her open and see what she's cracking on the inside. Again, this is a Mini ITX PC. So all the parts in here are going to be super tiny, but it does not mean they still cannot perform. Now, one problem that you do have to deal with when you're dealing with mini PCs is trying to find the right parts and making sure they fit inside the tiny spaces that you want to put them in. Always read everything very carefully and make sure you've got plenty of tape measures and you double and triple those measurements, because you get one thing off and then you're going to be cussing for hours. Took the side panel off here. Let's go ahead and look on what the inside of this bad boy has. I'm gonna go ahead and come over here so you can guys can look at the tech porn. What we have in here is a little bitty Asus 1700 motherboard with a 13500T processor, which is an i5. It has 16 cores and 20 threads, I believe. Don't quote me on that one. It could be 14 cores and 20 threads, but either way, it is a super powerful little processor. I really love this generation of Intel. I love the 1700 for the most part, outside of the handful of hiccups they had with them, with, you know, processors burning up and whatnot. But the ones that work, they work well. So you get plenty of cores and threads with this bad boy, so it can handle all kinds of computer power and computing without any problems. Now, they make two different variations of motherboards with these. They have ones with DDR4 and DDR5. Now, if you can go DDR5 if you want, right now they should be fairly cheap enough because this is a couple generations old at this point. But if you want to go, if you're on a tighter budget, you can go DDR4 and you can still pack the RAM in there all day long as you get decent speeds. So in here, I've got 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM clocked at 3200 megatransfers per second. And I'll tell you what, this bad boy performs really well, especially with that much RAM we put into it. Then I also put a 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe M.2 inside of there, so it's got plenty of storage for your game library. And then the creme de la creme of the creme that you guys want to hear about. What graphics card is that, Joe? This is a GeForce RTX 4060 low profile. These things are not cheap. They're like 300 bucks. And for me, that's a lot of money. But if you're willing to spend the dough, guess what? It's time to blow. This bad boy has got 3 little bitty fans on it. They do crank up and they do get a little loud, but not as loud as some of the 5090s out there. And then the second most expensive part for this computer, the PSU, which is the power supply. This is a small form factor power supply. I just call it an SFF power supply, or a flex power supply, I believe the name is. These things are not cheap, especially if you want a good quality one. So I went and I bought a Silverstone one. It was like 170 bucks. So it's expensive, but it's a 500 watt power supply. And with the quality that Silverstone's known for, this power supply should run for quite a long time, quite a few years easily. I played around with other power supplies that are flex like this, and there are some brands that will disappoint you. I actually had one that took out the motherboard when it crapped out with the power supply going out too. So you got to be careful with your power supplies. You don't have to buy the most expensive one, but you want to make sure you get at least a decent one. So whenever you're looking at power supplies, if you're ever going to buy them, look at the decent ones, look at the ones that have a decent rating, and look at the reviews on them. Don't make sure you buy something super cheap just because the price is right. Sometimes that'll destroy your whole system. You'll be spending a lot more money, and you would have wished you got a better power supply, spent the extra 20 bucks. So I got us a really nice power supply for this system. So whoever ends up getting this bad boy whenever they buy it from me is gonna get a power supply that's gonna last them a long time. And with it being a 500 watt, I'm gonna stick to to graphics cards that are the small form factor ones and they don't take that much power, they should be okay. Because this graphics card, this 4060, only takes like 130 watts. So they can use this with this power supply for several years and not have any problems. So I built this little bitty bad boy. I did the measurements and I measured twice and I make sure everything was right. And after all said and done, I got this beautiful, tiny, little bitty computer that, like I said, the only downside to it that I'm not a biggest fan of with it is whenever you're going hardcore with it, you'll hear the fans go off because when you have so much in such a tiny package, it's going to get a little bit loud. Now, it's not like loud where it's like deafening, but all I recommend is wear headphones when you're gaming on it, so that way it doesn't bother you. Look how tiny this little big thing is. I mean, technically, you can fit this in a backpack. You wouldn't be able to fit anything else with it. And this is a light PC too. I think the PC weighs maybe like, what, 7-8 pounds, something like that. So this is a very cool, I love my mini PCs. If you haven't noticed, I'm addicted to them. Even my own personal PC back here is a mini gaming PC. So daddy's in love. I like my small form factor stuff, but I like it to perform too. And so this has enough airflow. It does. Now it does get hot, especially here at the top. I don't think you noticed, but I installed a little bitty fan down here at the bottom of the power supply to help blow some of the hot air up. So up here at the top, when this thing gets performing, it's a little toasty right here. So I definitely wouldn't be putting your cell phone or nothing up here on top. But other than that, it's got lots of ports. You've got 4 USB ports on the back. You've got HDMI. You've got ports that you're not going to use as well. You also have your audio jacks, which is nice. You can run up to 4 monitors. I wouldn't recommend running up to 4 monitors on this thing. I'd go like 2 max. Keep them to like 1440p or 1080p monitors. Otherwise, you're good to go. But this tiny power supply has got a cute little button on it too, just like a big power supply does. And that's when you know you have a quality power supply, whenever it's got something like that on there. In my opinion, not always true, but I like to make stuff up. This bad boy's a beast. I also did some benchmarking on this thing too. Let me go ahead and pull up the results for you, and then I'll show you some videos after I get done talking and yapping away. Let's go ahead and look at the benchmarks this bad boy did. So on the Superposition benchmark, which is the Unigen benchmark, it's a newer one, this thing scored 13,509 with a minimum FPS of 81 and a max FPS of 140 with an average FPS of 101. And this bad boy was pumped to the max. And I believe the max temperature this bad boy saw was about 86 degrees Celsius. So like I said, this thing gets a little toasty when it cranks up, but it also performs. And with it being 40 series, you get access to a lot of the newer NVIDIA features, which is really, really, really nice. And then let's go ahead and pull up the other benchmark that I did, which was the Unigen Valley benchmark. With an average FPS of 194, this thing scored at 8,133 with a minimum FPS of 49 and a maximum FPS of 300. So a lot of you Fortniters out there, yeah, if you can get 300 frames per second, you're a happy little camper, aren't you? On that note, let's go ahead and show you the benchmarks. Joe is out, Mr. Magnum is out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.